All right. Hello and welcome, everyone. My name is Megan Foster, and I am the Community Engagement Coordinator for the Domestic Violence Intervention Program. And I'm here today with Rochelle Honey Arecement. Rochelle is a therapist with Family Wellbeing Associates in Tiffin, Iowa. And since May is Mental Health Awareness Month, I thought I'd have a conversation with Rochelle about some of the common things that we see with intimate partner violence and mental health. So thank you so much for being here, Rochelle.
Oh, thank you for having me, Megan.
Yes. So let's start by talking about the connection, some of the connections between intimate partner violence and mental health.
So, in the last few decades, we've really been studying, researchers have really been studying the impacts of trauma on our mental health and our physical health as well, but on our mental health really specifically. And some of the things that that research has shown is that adversities that happen to us when we are really young, so when we are between the ages, before we're born and up until, 18 and 18 years old, can really change our brain structure. And parts of the brain that are really affected are our emotion regulation parts of our brain, our ability to learn and to remember, our attentional areas of our brain are really impacted. And so our abilities to really read social cues and to communicate with other people, those parts of our brain are really affected by these adversities that happen to us when we're younger. One of the things that we're also found is that there's intergenerational transmission of these kinds of traumas. And so those who experience trauma when they're younger are more likely to pass along or have children who also experience trauma, or to experience trauma again when they are adults. So if you experience trauma as a child, you're more likely to experience traumatic experiences like intimate partner violence when you're an adult. And so we see diagnoses, like PTSD and those kinds of diagnoses happening to individuals who experience intimate partner violence, but often those individuals also experience trauma earlier in their life that affect their emotion regulation and shows up as mental illness.
So you mentioned PTSD.
Yeah.
What are some other common mental health conditions that can come as a result of intimate partner violence?
Yeah, so PTSD is that big one that everybody points to, but depression and anxiety are incredibly common as well. We also see, just emotion regulation issues. So that can show up in kids, right? We see kids who have witnessed intimate partner violence, who will start having behavioral issues as kids. We see it in attentional issues. So adults may have ADHD kinds of symptoms, but that really may just be that their brain has learned how to keep aware of all of the threats around them to keep them safe. And so they may not really have what we think of as ADHD. Truly, it may just be that their brain is working really, really well to keep them safe, but it's getting in the way of being able to pay attention.
I really like how you said that some of these symptoms are ways of the brain keeping people safe.
Absolutely.
And I love that, because I think that we need to be really clear that there should not be stigma attached to any of these conditions. These are normal things. If you have experienced intimate partner violence, that these are normal processes and normal things and ways that your brain and body are protecting.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Your body and our brains learn to be able to function in a way to keep us safe. And so if you're having to function in an area where you're in threat, your brain is going to function best when it's in threat, because that's how it's developed over time. And so but then when we're put in a situation where we aren't in threat, our brain isn't always best functioning for that situation. We see this happening in school, right? Where kids are having a difficult time focusing and paying attention, or they may have really strong emotions or be really reactive to things. That is because their brains are working to be able to keep them safe. But so they're going to do really well in situations where they have to be alert to their surroundings, like being a firefighter or something like that. But they may struggle in situations where you have to focus on one thing. Those skills can be taught and they can be learned, just like somebody who didn't grow up in chaos can also learn to be a firefighter, right? And can learn to do those things where you have to be alert. But we have to train our bodies to do that, and our brains.
So you talked about training our bodies and our brains. What
Mm-hmm.
are some simple things that a person can do if they are finding themselves in the middle of a flashback, or if they are finding themselves in the middle of an anxiety attack or a panic attack?
Yeah. So there's quite a few different grounding techniques that are out there, and I can give you a couple of them. But one of the things that is really, really important is to practice these skills when you're not in the middle of a panic attack or a flashback. We have to practice these skills over and over and over again when we're calm, because when we're in the middle of a panic attack or a flashback, our body is flooded with cortisol, and the parts of our brain that help us remember don't work well. So we can't remember, what is it that I'm supposed to do? It needs to be an automatic thing. So some of those things that we can do, some of the basics of just taking a deep breath, in through our nose and out through our mouth can be really helpful. Also doing it with our hand, right? And tracing in and out, in and out, right? And you trace all of your fingers. And that's something that you have with you all the time, right? But practicing that when you're calm. Other ways are to identify 5 things that you can see, 4 things that you can feel, 3 things that you can, let's see, what are they? Smell, 2 things that you can taste, whatever, and go through all your 5 senses. But again, practicing them when you're calm. People teach people how to do these things, and then when they're in the moment and they can't access it, they start beating themselves up, or they feel really bad that they couldn't remember what they were supposed to do. But that is natural to being in those situations. When we're flooded with cortisol, we can't remember. And so we have to practice it so it's just natural, an automatic response that we're going to do.
I love that. That is fantastic advice. And I've never seen the hand tracing with the breathing exercise. So that's
Mhm.
something that I think is really simple that you
Mhm.
can do and you can practice. And just when you're
Right.
sitting
And
on
you
the couch
don't have
watching
to hold
TV.
it up, right? You can just put it in your lap and do it in your lap, and nobody has to know that you're practicing it.
Oh, wow. That's fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Rochelle, for sharing your expertise with us. These are
Absolutely.
fantastic suggestions and we really appreciate it. And if you need any help or if you have any questions about how to access DVIP's services, you can call our hotline at 1-800-373-1043. Thanks so much, everyone, and bye
Thank
for
you.
now.